You're going to get run over in a second if you don't move.
Oh man, you should have seen the start of the tournament last night. It was crazy. The first corner was just absolute carnage. It was so crazy. That first corner.
I saw your picture, but it was just a stills photograph, so you don't really get the whole essence of people crashing in just a picture.
It was wild. Our tournament started last night, and I was commentating the first race, and then I was in the second. The second race, it was in Russia, and it's like a long stretch right to the first corner, and everybody has to get around that corner at the same time. In real life, people are a little bit careful, but in virtual, it's just everybody it was just crashing all over the place. I was lucky, so I got out in the third place straight away, so I thought it was okay. Nobody complained.
Excellent. How do you know hearing?
Yeah, something wrong with this. Yeah.
Yeah, Brendan, you need to be commenting on the final.
Yeah, but they'll probably Hollywood decides.
You need to be there. You need to be there in the final.
It's good fun. I think commentating is great fun. So.
Yeah, you should.
Very good.
Okay,
hi, Catherine.
Sorry?
Simon.
Just saying hello, Catherine.
Hi.
You
have been waiting for a while, I think so. Simon had been, he joined us for 1 hour ago.
Just watching the...
So you already covered everything, I guess.
Yeah.
Completely, yeah.
Except you didn't record anything, so nobody knows.
We have to do it again.
Is my virtual background blinking here? Or is it...
Yes, it is. It is blinking all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something, I don't know what's happened. I get it.
There you go. You're gone.
Yeah.
There you are. Oh, now you're gone.
Turn it off. There we go.
There you go.
Oh, that's a much better virtual background.
This is the IKEA virtual background he's got now.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so finally we have Simon on board. That was great. I mean, since we had Chris 2 weeks back, and then it's a coin toss who goes first. But Chris and Simon in my head is like I don't know. I have a Norwegian word for this, knolletott, but the English version I don't know what is. Like you go together, in my mind.
Yeah.
Probably in real life you don't, but just this is the image I have.
Well, in real life we kind of do too. We were chatting on the phone the other day, and it's almost 20 years ago that we started working together, which is amazingly scary. It's a big number.
Yeah. So to give everybody that's viewing this later on an introduction, could you tell something about yourself just to get people on the same page here?
Yeah. My background is sports psychology. That's how obviously Chris and I started working together. I was the sports psychologist, he was the athlete, and we worked together for about 8 years, I think, 7-8 years. But I guess my real passion has always been to understand world-class performers and world-class performance, and understand how it's different. You know, what world-class performers do that the other guys don't do, or probably more specifically, what world-class performers do that the others won't do. And figure out what we can learn from them and how we can adopt all of that for ourselves. So whether it's individuals, whether it's teams, leaders, organizations, I just want to know what the best do, how you can understand it, how you can distill it down into some principles, and how we can all adopt it so that we can become great at what we do. So that's the sort of, that's what I do. That's me.
Yeah, that's pretty simple. Or it's probably not that, it's simple because it's easy to explain, at least. So, yeah. So if I were to challenge you, Simon, how would you describe sort of the essence of your discoveries then? Like if you do that as simple as you described what you do, what is the result of, what have you come up with? What is the answers that you have? In the simplest terms possible.
Yeah, I tend to look for common characteristics. So if I look at one of the first things I did is I'd seen world-class athletes in sport, and I'd started to understand that there were some things about the world's best athletes that I didn't see in the rest. But I wanted to know whether if I looked outside of sport, I would find the same characteristics. So I started off with a group of a dozen people who were all world class in their field, but they were in very, very different fields. So one was a Michelin star chef, one was a world barista champion, there was a mountaineer and a polar explorer and a US Navy SEAL and some athletes, the head of a world leading science organization, loads of different people. And I wanted to find the common characteristics, the things that you see in all of them that differentiate them from the rest. And my very simple thought process was that if there are common characteristics, and you see them in all of these people, and they're in vastly diverse fields, they're probably generic. And therefore, if we can understand those principles and then we can start to learn how to adopt them, then that becomes useful and valuable for us. So that's what I've spent my last sort of 20 odd years doing.
Right. So what are those characteristics?
In individual performers, the first one, because there are 8 that I found. So the first one is that they are driven by passion. I used to call it that they have a dream, but it's not that really. It's that they have a passion, a real passion for what they do. And because they have a passion for it, it's not just that they love doing it. I mean, that's part of it. But it's also that it's important and they care about it and it matters to them. So they've got this real burning passion for what they do. And because of that, it allows them to kind of develop another quality, which is curiosity. Because they're passionate about it, they're also curious. And therefore, they want to know how to do it better. Kenny, the Michelin star chef, just wants to know how to create better dishes and better experience. It was the same with James, who was the world barista champion. Chris, when he was swimming, just wanted to know how you swim down a pool quicker. And he was really passionate about becoming the best he could be and pushing himself as hard as he could. So that's the sort of the driving force behind it all, their passion. They also, they're very happy focusing on one step at a time, focusing on the next step, as I call it. So they do know where they want to go. They've got a really good view as to where they want to get to, but they don't focus on the end point. They focus on the step that they're taking right now. And that means that they end up executing it brilliantly. They can focus on the processes. They simplify, which is the third one. And if you talk to most world-class performers, they will explain what they do very simply. My job's very simple. All I do is, but their job's no different really than anybody else's. It's just that they look for the simplicity in it. So they see the simplicity. They keep it nice and simple, focus on the fundamentals. And that's the foundation really for what they do. The fourth characteristic is that I call it they don't compromise. But the truth is everybody has to compromise, but they do know what they will and won't compromise. They know where that kind of line falls. And there are some things that they absolutely won't compromise and others that they're happy to compromise. So for example, they will compromise their own comfort, but they won't compromise the quality or their standards. So they know where they will and won't. They're very happy to, as I call it, push the envelope. They're happy to push it and push it and push it and push it until it breaks. They don't mind making mistakes. They don't mind failing because they're not in it to be successful. They're in it because they're passionate about it. So the bizarre thing is world-class performers make more mistakes than most people. That classically people think that they would make less mistakes, but they make more because they push it harder and harder and harder. And when I asked James, the world barista champion, how do you know where the limit is, he says you have to push it until it breaks and then you come back a little bit. And that's when you find your limit. And honestly, most people have been nowhere near their limits. I mean, for most of my life, in most of the things that I've done, I've never been anywhere near my limits. I've encountered them a couple of times because I've pushed that hard, but most people don't really know where their limits are. The sixth one is that they are mentally tough. The seventh is that they take complete responsibility for their performance. And because they take responsibility, they can take control. So they don't look to blame anybody or anything else. They're not the kind of people who would say, oh, it's because of COVID, or it's because of the economy, or it's because of this, or because of the government, none of that. They take full responsibility for what they do. And because they do that, they can take control. And the last one is that they are very happy being themselves. Which kind of sounds obvious, but you have to understand these people are not normal. They're weird. A friend of mine described it by reminding me what the word eccentric means. And it means that they're off-center. these people are a long way off center. They don't make normal decisions. They don't do normal things. They don't act like normal people, but they're happy being themselves, knowing that they're weird. So that in combination, they are the characteristics, the 8 characteristics that I found in world-class performers.
This is very interesting. I have a story to go with this, because one of the people I met when I was 18 years old was what could be described as one of the most genius mathematicians alive today. His name is John Rognes, and he was the youngest professor in mathematics of the University in Oslo's history. And we have Niels Henrik Abel as one of the professors in our line of professors, and he became a professor when he was 28. Now, Jon beat him by 4 months or something. And when he was 18 years old, he developed something completely new inside knot theory in n-dimensional space, which is so weird that probably about 50 people in the whole world would understand what he was doing at the age of 18. Now, he was a brilliant guy. He did high school and university mathematics at the age of 3, and he was like completely he's totally eccentric, that's for sure. And he has the world record in this and that, whatever, right? Now, I asked him, because he was role-playing in my role-playing game world, and he was too smart. So everybody was just looking at him every time something would come across, and they were fighting a dragon or whatever. Everybody just looked at him and waiting for him to say something, because he just blurted out something genius, and everybody else was just sitting there and piggybacking on whatever he was doing. So I had to actually let him leave my role-playing game world. But before that, we went down a flight of stairs down to the Coke machine and up again in about 10 minutes. And then I asked him, so Jon, tell me about knot theory in n-dimensional space. What is that? And he explained that in less than 10 minutes in such a way that my grandmother would understand it. And then he said, and then there is some calculations and stuff in there, but you get the gist of it. And I said, wow, that's really simple. Yeah, it's simple. And this is a guy who is so freaking genius. He would run circles around everybody, but he doesn't have to elevate himself. He doesn't feel the need to elevate himself above anybody else. He's just being himself, and he's passionate about what he's doing, and he's always seeking out the simplicity.
Yep.
And they asked him on national TV, why didn't you turn this in as a PhD? You would have gotten this through as a PhD at the age of 18. And he said, no, as a PhD, I'm going to do something really interesting. So he was always curious about stuff. But the thing that struck me was he was so simple. And that's where my passion for simplicity started.
Yeah.
Those 10 minutes, I was like totally flabbergasted by the fact that the guy didn't describe or present his own genius to me in any way.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool thing.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, one of the things that I picked up an Albert Einstein quote, which says, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't really understand it. And, you have to really understand something in order to simplify it often. It takes more work to simplify things. It's easier to leave them overly complicated. And yeah. You can see most people, they're very good at overcomplicating things, because actually that's quite easy. But it's really difficult to simplify and refine. I wrote a little article the other day, which I posted on Medium, and it was 1,500 words, but I was trying to get across quite a large, quite an involved topic. And it took me all day to simplify it down to 1,500 words. I remember one of my university lecturers saying, it's a lot more difficult to write a 1,000-word essay than a 10,000-word essay. And
yeah, because then you can just go blabber, blabber, blabber. Winston Churchill, he had a lot of flaws, but in any case, he wrote one page that was really interesting, and it's called Brevity. I don't know if you read that, but it's about how he wanted some information during the World War II to come across on his desk. He said, never use more than one page, and here is how you write it. And he goes into, it's 1/3 of a page long, really. And he just nails it in that simple thing.
Yeah, I can remember a couple of years ago reading your one-page books, and again the idea that you can you can crunch something down, really simplify it, really clarify it, express it really concisely in a very short space of time, makes it, in my view, really powerful often.
Yeah, I mean, I at least one of the one-page books, I took 10 years of recruitment experience and then 6,000 interviews and 22,000 CVs, etc., and just crammed it down to one page. I thought, this I should be able to do. It's not that complicated. It's simple stuff, really.
Hey guys, my camera's playing up a little bit and my laptop is being really funny, but I'm still here. Hello.
But you're frozen. You're frozen.
Yeah, that's okay. Frozen's cool.
It's like you're frozen in the summer as well.
But anyway, Simon, Margrethe sends a big hello to you and family. So we were in the car and, you're meeting Simon online. So send a big hugs, virtual hugs and everything to you and the girls.
We'll send a load back from us as well. Thank you. That's really kind.
But just so people can know, because me and Guy, we actually traveled to Leeds, which was a real fun, nice, strange train trip a few years ago, based on it was probably the Two Lengths book. I think so. It was one of the books that we'd picked up, or I'd heard about you on a podcast or something. Like, it was really strange. I can't remember. I picked up the name and said, "Oh, that sounds like an interesting guy." And then we sort of we met in Leeds. And ever since, we've sort of kept contact. And for people watching this, sharing on YouTube, it's like we invite people in that we either think is like amazing, or people that we want to find something out about. And you definitely go into this category of like an amazing person that we have in our network to get onto this webinar. So it's really cool that you could be on it.
No, it's an absolute pleasure.
It goes almost without saying, because people will have, if they come to this part and listen to what I'm saying now, they already heard that you're amazing, because you presented the 8 characteristics of world-class performers in the simplest of terms. So it's not like we have to talk about the fact that you are amazing. You already did that by delivering something amazing, because that's the only way you can sort of get down to the amazingness of people. Either you find somebody in the bush like we did in northern Tanzania, where Brendan and I were the first 2 white guys into a village that was discovered in 2005. And we were there 5 years later, and we found amazing people, not because somebody told us they were amazing, but because they presented their amazingness almost immediately. And this is something that goes back to recruitment, because, I've gotten to the point where I say, if you recruit the right person into any position or any area of responsibility, magic will happen within 2 weeks. If magic does not happen within 2 weeks, it's the wrong person. It doesn't matter what it is. If you have a good cook, he will create something amazing within 2 weeks. If you have a great manager, something amazing will happen within 2 weeks. And here it happened within a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think the other thing, if you got the environment around them right as well, if you give them enough freedom to show their genius, great people will. Yeah.
It's similar to the CEO of Bell Laboratory back in 1970, I think. He was asked how he was able to manage the most successful engineering company in the history of the world. And he said, well, I just hired the best geniuses and get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Even Chris on the last webinar we had, not Chris the swimmer, Chris the other guy, and he's the leader of ex-drug addicts, not only drugs but alcohol and stuff. And he said that he has to recruit absolutely zero on what people have done. So he's recruiting only by looking ahead, because he can't look back, because people have got holes in their CVs. And if you ask, like, what did you do during this time? I was a drug addict for 3 years. So it's like, he can't recruit based on people's history. He can only recruit, is this person able to do this job in the future? And he was like totally on board, and I have to get out of the way. So can this person do the job, and can I get out of the way? It was really amazing listening to him as well.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I've been working quite a lot with my clients, both in sport and in business, on how to recruit on character, because that's one of the things I notice with world-class organizations. They recruit on character. They recruit the people first and the CV or the skill set or whatever afterwards. They've got that fundamental understanding that we need good people, good human beings here. And, if we got the right CV and the right skills and the right certificates, but we've got the wrong person, we've got it wrong. If we've got the right person, yes, we can absolutely teach them the rest, but we need the right person first. I was talking to them about how you understand whether you've got the right person. And, so many recruitment sort of exercises that go on don't actually focus on understanding the person that's in front of you. And at the end of the recruitment exercise, most people don't know anything about the person. They know quite a lot about the CV, and they know, the kind of the answers to the questions, that maybe their technical ability, but they haven't actually really looked at the person in front of them.
I think whenever back in 2007, whenever a guide hired me, if he'd looked at the CV and the skills alone, he wouldn't have hired me.
No. That's actually true. That's very much true. The reason I hired you.
It's because we love each other, guide.
Yeah. But that came later. But the reason. The reason was that you were in the schoolyard just across my house at the time, and the school where two of my kids went. And you were juggling 3 burning torches while you were balancing a burning bicycle on your head. And I thought, I have to hire that guy.
He's the right kind of person.
Yeah, that was just too freaking amazing. I just had to figure out something. So, yeah.
But Simon, there's I'd like you to share with people that watch this the story of your 160 kilometer walk. Was it 160?
100 miles, yeah.
Yeah, that's 160 kilometers. Can you tell people roughly about that walk and what you went through during that? Because it's so funny, especially the route that you took.
Yeah. So I probably ought to tell you the reason for doing it first. I've been training for a couple of events. I wanted to. This goes back to wanting to challenge myself, wanting to find where those limits are, wanting to really push yourself until you found the limits. And for so long, I was aware that I had never found my limit. I wrote a book back in, what was it, probably 2012, 2013, called Could I Do That? And I set myself a challenge, which I didn't manage to finish because my wife, Caroline, got ill whilst we were doing the training. And it was a 40-day challenge. So there's no way I could leave her for 40 days and go and do this when she was ill. So I kind of had this thing inside me where I still wanted to find where my limit was. And I was doing some training. I injured my knee, so I couldn't run. And I was doing sort of speed walking. And I wondered, as I was doing one of these walks, I wonder if anybody's walked 100 miles in 24 hours. Is it even possible? Can human beings do that? And I got home, opened up the web browser, typed it into the search bar, 100-mile walk, and I found this group of people called the Centurions who had done it. And I thought, wow, it's obviously possible. I wonder if I could. So I started training. 15 months later, I actually kind of, I managed to find the date where I could do it. I was going to start at 9 p.m. on a Friday night and walk up until 9 p.m. the following night. I'd gone through the 15 months, and in doing so figured out that there are a couple of things that you really do need, like you need the right footwear, you need the right socks and all the rest of it, or else you rip your feet to shreds. I'd got my pacing right. I'd done some of the some walks through the night and all that sort of stuff. So I sort of prepared myself, but at that point I hadn't actually completed a 100-mile walk. I'd done a couple over 50, but I hadn't done a full 100. So quite honestly, when I started, I didn't know if I could do it. And if you asked me if I truly believed it, the answer was no. If you said to me, you've got to put your mortgage on this, are you going to do it, yes or no? The answer would have been no. I don't think I can. But I had this sort of philosophy, just keep walking. That was it. Just keep walking. Whatever happens, just keep walking. Keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep doing it for as long as you possibly can. And only stop if you actually physically cannot walk another stride. That was the deal I made with myself. So I set off and off I went. And I knew that, one of the reasons I'd done this was to encounter the quit point, as I call it. So I constructed the route in 8 12.5 mile laps from my house. So I would come past my house 8 times, because I knew that if I did that, the temptation to quit would be higher. It's just there. I also deliberately didn't publicize it. I wasn't going to do it for charity. I wasn't getting sponsored. There was no TV crew or anything like that to kind of keep me on track. So it was just me. I didn't even have any headphones in. It was just me. And I kind of wanted to experience the whole thing. And particularly experience the conversation that goes on between your ears when you hit that quit point. And there was a moment just after the halfway. So as I came into halfway, every 2 laps, every 25 miles, I would come in and I'd do like a real quick change, put new water bottles in, put some more food in my sack and all that sort of stuff. And at the halfway mark, I also went to the toilet, T-shirt change, you kind of get chafing in all sorts of various places. So quick change of clothes, all that sort of stuff, and back out again. And because I'd changed my socks and I sat down, when I stood back up again and set off, it was like my body went into rigor mortis. And I got stabbing pains down the outside of my legs and felt like a spear going into the outside of my knees. And I was literally I was about half a mile away from home. I could have just turned back. And I battled with myself for about probably a mile, maybe mile and a half. What are you doing this for? You could just go home. This is utter pain. You're probably doing damage to yourself. And it took a while for it to dawn on me that this is the quit point. This is one of those quit points. And I started to kind of think, well, how would I coach somebody else through it? What do you need in order to get through a quit point? And I kind of, it sort of emerged in my mind that there are 2 questions that I have to answer in that moment. One of them is, why are you doing this? And the second one is, how much do you want it? And if you can answer both of those, you're likely to get through to the other side. And I kind of went, well, why am I doing it? I'm doing it to encounter the quit point and push myself through a quit point. Well, that's where I am. So actually, this is my reason for doing it, to get through to the other side of this. Okay, how much do I want it? Well, I've been training for 15 months. I've been through various pairs of shoes and socks. I've ripped my feet to shreds. I've been out training for hour after hour after hour. That's how much I want this. Okay, well,
your YouTube video didn't look like you'd been training for 15 months.
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say so. You didn't see me when I started the 15 months, did you? I got half my body weight in that 15 months.
I hope that video is still in YouTube, because we have to put a link on it, because it was so crazy cool watching it. It was really funny. Well, sorry, keep going.
It'll be there sometime. So I keep walking, and it wasn't honestly until I think I was about 78 miles in that I actually thought, do you know what? Maybe I can do this. Maybe, I've only got 20 odd miles left. Maybe this is possible after all.
So what time was it then?
It's 78 miles in. That's kind of mid-afternoonish.
Okay.
So one of I bizarrely tried to stack things in my favor. So my course was very, very flat. Most of it was on the road. There was a little bit off road, but most of it was on the road. I started at 9 o'clock at night. So I did the night bit first.
Yeah, that's sensible.
It was almost Midsummer's Day. It was about a week or so off Midsummer's Day. So I had the maximum amount of sunlight. So when it came round to the halfway mark, which was about, I don't know, 7:30 in the morning, something like that. It had already been light for a while. I was kind of having my breakfast, and then all of a sudden, from there to the end of the day, didn't seem like, kind of that much left, if you know what I mean, bizarrely.
Yeah.
So I kind of stacked it in my favor as much as I could, and I probably finished at 7:45 ish. I think it was something like that. So kind of came in ahead of time, even though I'd slowed down massively during some parts and then had to kind of speed back up again. I was working on 5 miles an hour. That was my kind of standard walking pace, just over 5 miles an hour. So if I did that without any breaks, any stops, I'd have done it in 20 hours. But of course, there's always slippage. So ultimately I did lose a little bit of pace. But as Brendan said, if the little YouTube video just sees me deteriorating through the course of the day.
And it's just so much pain just watching it. It's like, oh no, stop. It's like screaming, you gotta stop it. So it's really cool because that video really shows that you went through pain.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of somebody said to me afterwards, would you do it again? And the answer is no. I haven't got any reason to now. You've got to have a really strong reason to go through that amount of, kind of pain and garbage.
Yeah, but the reason you had is sort of used up.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Because you did actually get to the quit point and you got through it, which means, I mean, there isn't that much motivation in getting through another pain point or exit point or its quit point and then again do it. So no.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not that I don't look for tough challenges now, but I don't need another physical one. And to be honest, I mean, my knees were wrecked anyway, and I really did wreck them doing that. So my knees are not up to doing anything like that now. But I find my own challenges now in very different ways. My biggest challenge at the moment is writing a fictional book. I've written 8 non-fiction books, but this one, writing fiction, is really tough. It's the toughest challenge. It's way tougher than the 100-mile walk in its own way, because I've got to unlearn so much that I learned whilst I was writing non-fiction. And there's so many things I didn't ever consider that I'd have to learn as I'm going through it. And I'm now on my 7th full draft of an 80-odd thousand word book. And it might be about a 7 out of 10, maybe something like that. I thought
that description that you wrote in a blog post about show and tell. You can say something in that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the first time I sent this to anybody to have a look at it was to a guy who's kind of an editor. He's a journalist as well, but he's written fiction books and he edits fiction books. And I thought at the time, I'd done a couple of years' work on it. It was my 2nd full draft. Sent it to him, and I got the feedback on an email. And it said that the title of the email was "Book Feedback (brackets Brace Yourself." And I read it through, and Caroline, who's sitting next to me, my wife, was looking at my face dropping as I was reading this email, and she can detect when something's wrong. She said, "Oh, what's that? What's that?" I said, "Oh, it's feedback from Greg, the editor." And she said, "Oh, let's have a look." So I handed her my phone, and she got a paragraph in, and she said, "I can't finish reading that." And she handed it back to me. She said, "You don't have to do this, it's not like our livelihood depends on it or anything. You could just stop." And again, there's a quit point. And on this occasion, I had a bit more of a tug of war going on, because there's part of my identity that says, you're not a fictional writer. This is not what you're good at. You've never written fiction before. What on earth did you think you were doing? You've just given it your best shot, and it's maybe a 1 or 2 out of 10. And Greg's given you all of this feedback on the book. Clearly that you're not up to this. Why don't you just quit? But there's got to be something pulling back the other way in order for you to keep going. And I started to kind of reconnect with my reason for writing it. My reason for writing it wasn't to become J.K. Rowling or become a billionaire, author or anything like that, or because I desired to be a fictional author. My desire, my reason to write this is because I'm trying to help teenagers, particularly, to overcome the life challenges, to navigate their way through their life challenges. And I know that there's some really powerful principles in psychology and philosophy that can help them. But if I write a non-fiction book, nobody will read it. Teenagers are not going to read a non-fiction book about philosophy and psychology. If I can wrap it into a story and make it meaningful, there's a real chance that they'll get it, they'll understand it, and maybe even be able to use it. And I do know, because, I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings and the Harry Potter books and all that sort of stuff. I know that philosophy and psychology is in there. I mean, to me, Harry Potter's a book about character rather than wizards.
Or if you take Sophie's World.
Yeah, all of these stories,
obviously. Yeah,
they've got character wrapped up into them, and they've got philosophy and psychology and, courage and honor and, all of that stuff's wrapped up in it. But sometimes it's a bit too implicit. And I wanted to make it explicit so that people, it wasn't just a story, it was also a manual, that they could take these ideas and use them for themselves. So that's the reason to write it. So am I going to quit? No, it's too important. I mean, really, all I know is that I'm going to have to go through 1 more, 2 more, 3 more, 4 more, 5 more edits. I don't know, 6 more edits, 8 more edits. I don't know. And each time, as long as I make it better and better and better, it'll get closer to being quality that I can publish. And my kind of good enough bar is that teenagers will read it, they will get it, they'll be able to use it, and hopefully they'll tell their mates about it, and somebody else will benefit as well.
I've told all my mates about it. I really want an early version. I want an early version mostly to compare with the finished version. I want like a bad version first. I want to read the 1 out of 10. I'm going to read it.
Yeah. You probably won't finish it.
I get to the quit point.
Yeah, I tested it because I wanted to create this book that you couldn't put down, and I gave it to my girls and said, read that and tell me when you want the next chapter. They didn't come and ask, so I actually ended up creating a book that really pick up. So yeah, I'm just going to keep going and keep going. Just before Christmas, I gave it to another guy, Nick, who's a thriller writer, and he's been giving me some feedback on it as well. And again, I thought, right, it's there. It's got to be now because I've done that much work on it. And he kind of went, I think there's some fundamental stuff in here that you need to have a look at. And the book used to be called The Dragon Boy, and I've had to sack the dragon. So that's how big a change it needed. I had to get rid of the damn dragon in a book called The Dragon Boy. But if it's only a 5 out of 10 and you want it to be good enough to publish, you can't tweak it from a 5 out of 10. You have to make some serious changes. So it's been through a serious rewrite. Kind of lots of fundamental stuff I've had to change within the storyline, but keep all the psychology and the philosophy in there, and probably actually up it a little bit as well. I've found some opportunities to just elevate that stuff. So
it's also true that J.K. Rowling was refused a lot before they finally went through, right?
Yeah. I think she, maybe it was the 28th publisher she approached, or something like that. Or she got rejected 28 times before she got accepted. Yeah.
So then there was 28 guys who lost their job, who got sacked.
Absolutely. Yeah. Commissioning editor that didn't get Harry Potter. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Rejected Harry Potter. Yeah. You don't want that on your CV.
No. That's not what you want. Rather have a drug addict for 3 years than rejecting Harry Potter.
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, in its own way, that's a far, far tougher challenge from my point of view than walking 100 miles or even doing.
Well, I would think totally the opposite. For me, it's completely the opposite. Oh yeah. For me, walking 100 miles would be just probably because I don't have the motivation for it. But writing fiction books is something I really enjoy doing. So that's a whole that's just pure fun. That is nothing but fun.
Yeah, and actually, bizarrely, it didn't feel fun to start with, but it's becoming a lot more enjoyable now. The kind of thing that I'll set aside a couple of hours on a weekend and look forward to doing now. But I didn't to begin with. It was just hard work to begin with. It's taken quite a while for it to feel like fun. I started another fictional book because when my oldest son, who's now 21, when he was 1 year old, I started telling him a story about fantasy kingdom, etc., etc. And when he was about 3 years old, he asked if he can be part of the story. At that time, he went through a door in his kindergarten and came into this story and started living in this castle and became boyfriend to the princess and and the troll in the basement and every dragon and all the cliches over there. But it's quite an intricate thing because I've been telling that story continually for 20 years. So the world is extremely elaborate. So I'm started just pulling everything down into a fiction story because there is so much stuff in there.
Like when Niklas, when he was 6 years old, he had to solve an equation 2 times x minus 1 equals 11, and he was 6 years old, to be able to get into the crypt to get the dwarven invisible shield. And it took him about 3 seconds, and he said, x is 6, Dad. And the doors opened, and he got the shield and everything. So I taught them mathematics during this. I taught them about law and order. And my second oldest son, Jonathan, he started a business empire in there, creating, the watch, sun watch on his wrist, and the fireworks and all kinds of stuff. So you can use these things to educate children, as you say, by slipping, philosophy, principles of psychology. How do you interact with bad people? How do you interact with good people? How do you sift bad from good? And all of these things can easily be put into a fictional setting.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got a bit more work to do on it yet. I'm about 2/3, nearly 3/4 of the way through this particular draft. So once I finish this one, we'll have another look with Nick and see how far it is along that little path, and go from there. I've got the illustrator working on the cover again, because having changed the title, we also need to change the cover design.
Yeah, the dragon needs to go.
The dragon's gone, yeah.
Yeah.
Simon, I think you should also mention this masterclass that I took part in, the previous one, and there's another one coming up. And I sent some people that way the last time, and they really, really liked it. Like they thought it was so much value that they got out of it. Do you want to mention it? And because there's one coming up now, right?
Yeah. Do you mean the 5-day challenge that we're doing?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we in the summer, I think it was back in August, wasn't it? I launched the first World Class Mindset 5-day challenge to help people really understand how to master focus, confidence, and motivation. Because from my point of view, if you want to get to grips with your mental game, if you can understand how to engineer focus, confidence, and motivation, that's really the foundation. Everything else kind of springs from there. So yeah, the 5-day challenge is to help people do exactly that, to start engineering what goes on between their ears. And particularly in those tough times, particularly when they're challenged, to be able to think the way that they want to, and kind of master their mind and emotions. So yeah, we're doing another one starting on the 2nd of November. Yeah, I mean, we can post up some details as a web page to register through. And yeah, we're going to kick off. Hopefully we'll have as good a group as last time, because they were a wonderful group.
Yeah, because it gets really specific. You give out homework every day, and people do homework, and then they share it with each other.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing's designed. One of the principles that I work by is that it has to be valuable, and to be valuable, you have to be able to apply it. It's not just good enough to know it. You have to be able to apply it and do it. So yeah, it's all based around really tangible exercises, stuff that you can actually do. So
but
yeah.
there's no walking for 100 miles.
You don't have to do that, no, because that would be
on the 5th day you do that.
If you can do that on the 6th day if you want to. Yeah. But yeah, there's a kind of nice easy structure. We share some stuff during the morning. There's some bits and pieces to work through. We wrap it all up in a sort of like a webinar in the evening, so that we can talk through sort of really live interactive conversations about each topic, about focus, about confidence, about motivation. So yeah, it's very much a coaching environment. It's not kind of a one-way flow of information. It's very much a coaching environment. It's based on having a community in there that are learning together, so that everybody can learn from each other as they go through as well. So yeah, I really, really genuinely enjoyed running the last one. I didn't really know what to expect, because it was the first time we'd done it, but it was really great, and the feedback at the end of it was fantastic. So that spurred us on to do a second one.
So I think we will post a link on that, right? Yeah. So you have to send me that one.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that. So I think I think maybe we will wrap it up now. It's getting we have around those 45 minutes. So it was really nice talking to you, Simon. Or I didn't say much this time. I was just listening. I'm just sitting here enjoying myself for now. but I really look forward to reading your book, of course. And then maybe I hope we can do this one more time.
That would be fantastic. Yeah. I've had a
this
great
was great.
time.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure talking to you guys. So I never need an excuse to do it. It's
Perfect.
Likewise. Very much so.
Before we round up, just because you did it for me, Geir, you have birthday tomorrow, I think. Or Brendan told me some history.
Oh yeah. Actually, I do. It sort of slips my mind a lot, but you're right. Exactly.
Let's make sure it doesn't slip your mind. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Geir. Happy birthday to you. Woo!
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So next week we have 2 webinars actually. We have Marco on Wednesday and I forgot his name, but you know Brandon, he's from Tanzania. You told about him.
Oh, Amani is coming.
Amani. He's a wonderful guy. He is the reason why we went to this village up in the north of Tanzania in 2010, because his father, who was the district commissioner for northern Tanzania, he discovered that village in 2005. And there's about 5,000 people in 3 villages, but we went to one of the villages and had a seminar there.
We had a meal.
Yeah, and we had a meal. It was a crazy story, really crazy story.
Yeah, we'll keep that for next week.
We'll keep that for next week. Yeah,
perfect. So, Simon, send me this link and we will post it.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Good seeing you again,
Thank you,
Simon.
everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Geir, see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow at 9 o'clock or before 9 o'clock.
It's online, so it's in Teams.
Oh, it's in Teams. Okay,
yeah.
but you